What up, sports fans? Waxon Wednesday, Jake Waxman, Tyler Lavalette, two guys talk sports. Let's go. Okay, to tell you the truth, I actually did watch a little bit of the NBA Finals. I even watched Game 5. I watched a little bit of Game 3, a bit of Game 4 as well. And even before that, I saw a little bit of the series between the Pacers and the Celtics. So admittedly, I did watch a little bit of the NBA playoffs. Just not the whole thing, but I can say this. Kudos and congrats to the Boston Celtics on their 18th NBA championship. That is insane. 18 championships in one professional sport. Crazy. But that speaks to the history of the Boston Celtics and the history of excellence that they have. And watching this Celtics team led by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, there were plenty of good teams in this year's NBA playoffs, but this Celtics team was just too much for anyone that got in their way. And I will say this. Everyone gives the Indiana Pacers crap for, blowing a couple games when they could be up, when they could have been up in the series. But that's the Celtics team. You got to keep your foot on the gas on the Celtics, or they just come roaring right by, and with all that firepower and that poise on defense. So, better team won that series. Although, of course, I would say all I would say is it probably would have been a longer series if the Pacers had been able to steal a game or two, of course. But hey, so better team won that series, and then this NBA Finals, it could have easily been a sweep. Of course, but I wouldn't have surprised me to learn that the Celtics didn't do their best just so they could win it all at home in Boston. And I don't blame them for that, because who wouldn't want to win a championship in front of your home crowd? But looking at it, and that was a very, very good Dallas Mavericks team. That led by Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Very, very good team. The Celtics, much like against the Indiana Pacers, they were just too much. They had too much firepower on offense. Their defense was excellent. Just everything about that Celtics team was superb and sublime. That might have been one of the best teams in terms of like greatest teams to win an NBA championship. You could make a case for them being a top 10 team because they were good. Depth wise, they were loaded and stacked at every position. They had plenty of offensive firepower. Guys who could make threes at any point. Guys who could drive it inside. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they were excellent. They were magnificent. This was their finest series. No doubt about that. And but I think a lot of credit goes to Brad Stevens, okay, who used to be the coach for the Butler Bulldogs. He's been working hard behind the scenes at the Boston Celtics, from his coaching days as the Celtics coach to now as being more of the general operations. He has done a great job building this team. And now he's got an NBA ring to show for it. And all those guys, they got NBA rings, of course, and rightfully so. And again, Boston, they faced a terrific Dallas Mavericks team. This just goes to show this year's playoffs, that Boston Celtics team, they were much like this UConn team. They were well ahead of everyone else in this year's playoffs, and it's no surprise at the end that they're hoisting up the NBA championship and their 18th banner. So, and again, hey, Mavericks gave it everything they had. Now, of course, Kyrie struggled at times, and I thought Doncic played well. It was just one of those cases where the Mavericks needed everyone in every game, and it just wasn't enough. It's kind of the same thing, just like how the UConn Huskies, led by Dan Hurley, they were too much for the Purdue Boilermakers. We see kind of a similar thing here. The Celtics were just simply too much for a terrific Dallas Mavericks team. And that Mavericks team is very good, and the future's bright for them. It wouldn't surprise me to see him win an NBA championship in the future. But right now, 2024 belongs to the Boston Celtics. Without a doubt, best team in the playoffs. It does not surprise me that they won, because they are just loaded all from within, and too much firepower, too much defense, too much of everything. So, once again, hey, congrats to the Mavericks on a great season, and kudos and congrats to the Boston Celtics on their 18th NBA championship. All right, moving on to the Stanley Cup playoffs. As if the twists and turns, and as if there weren't enough twists and turns. So I'm not gonna lie, I thought the Panthers were gonna sweep. I had them in 6 games. I'll stick by that. But it was looking like my prediction was gonna be off by like 2 games. But that's not what's happened. Instead, momentum has shifted. The tables have turned. The momentum right now is with the Edmonton Oilers all of a sudden. So I'll start with the Panthers. So I'm going to talk about both the Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. So for the Panthers, okay, they're still playing well. They don't need to panic. They are still playing really, really well as a team. They're playing fantastic hockey. Just got to keep focused. You know, it's hard to close out an opponent, especially one that's fighting like hell to stay alive. You know, it can be difficult, even for the best teams. And this Panthers team, they're scoring plenty of goals. Just in the last 2 games, not as many as the Oilers, of course. Game 5 was rough for the Panthers. They had a rough game. They played much better at home. Game 4 was rough for them in Edmonton. But road games are difficult. You're going to have that sometimes. You're going to have those rough games where you lose by a pretty big score. But you can always bounce back the next game. In Game 5, they played much better, but just Edmonton was a step ahead that night in Sunrise, Florida. So, but really, there's not much that the Panthers, for the most part, need to change. They just got to keep scoring goals. Just don't mess around. Hey, if you're the Panthers, don't screw around, all right? Okay, don't get comfortable. Find a way to take back momentum, all right? The Panthers are still in the driver's seat. 1 win, and the Stanley Cup is all theirs. They get their first Stanley Cup banner in franchise history. It's theirs for the taking. They just got to close it out. Just got to find that way. And they did a lot of good things. They did plenty of good things in Game 5. The only concern right now I have for the Panthers, like they're putting plenty of shots on goal, but my big concern right now for the Panthers, and one that could bring them down in 7 games, unfortunately, is Sergei Bobrovsky. You know, he's been playing well throughout the playoffs, but in these last 2 games, he has been nowhere near his best, okay? I mean, gave up 5 goals in Game 4 and got pulled. That's not a good sign. And in Game 5, he gave up 4 goals. And you know what? Edmonton, they're tough to beat when they're scoring 4 or more goals. So, Sergei Bobrovsky, he needs to shake off the troubles from Game 4 and 5. He needs to get back into his zone and refocus, re-energize, come out strong for Game 6. Because Florida needs him to be at his best. All right. He was better in Game 5 than he was in Game 4, but not by much, unfortunately. So, and he's been a favorite all playoffs long for the Conn Smythe. But in the last 2 games, his performance concerns me. So, and if I'm a Panthers fan, I would be worried about him. So, can he bounce back? If you're a Panthers fan, you're hoping so. Because he needs to bounce back. They need him if they're going to secure the Stanley Cup in Game 6. So otherwise, Florida's doing just about everything right. They just need Sergei Bobrovsky to get back to being playoff Bob. All right, we need playoff Bob. Will the real playoff Bob please stand up? That's what the Panthers need right now to secure the Stanley Cup. Otherwise, they're doing a lot of good things. Okay, and there's plenty for them to adjust on, but that's the biggest thing I would say. But offense is still there, and their defense is still tough. So they just got to close it out. And you know what? It starts with making sure that playoff Bob comes right out swinging for the fences. And now on to the Oilers side of things. Hey, give the Oilers props. They look dead after 3 games. But here's the thing. The first game, Game 1, they outshot the Panthers. They just couldn't get pucks past Bobrovsky. Sergei was at his best. He was in playoff Bob mode. And then the other 2, it's been Florida. But the last 2 games, of course, it's been Edmonton. They've found a way to flip the script, flip the tables, flip the momentum. The mojo's on their side right now. And the biggest reason why is offense. And, Connor McDavid, he scored a couple goals, and he has also a lot of assists, Draisaitl's trying to get more involved. Oilers need more of him, but the offense is showing up for Edmonton. They're getting pucks to the net, and they're getting plenty of them past Sergei Bobrovsky. That's what's been the big difference. They're putting pressure on Bob, and they're rattling him quite a bit. The last two games, the last two Stanley Cup Final games, playoff Bob or Sergei Bobrovsky has looked rattled, and a lot of that is because Edmonton is putting pressure on him. They're getting to the net. They are putting pressure on the net. They're crashing the net. That's what they need to do. That's how they're going to continue building this momentum. They're back, of course, they're at the disadvantage of having their backs against the wall and can't afford to lose, but that can also be an advantage in the fact that, hey, we got nothing to lose. We just got to keep doing what we're doing. Because Edmonton, like I said, in Game 1, Edmonton, they were hitting shots on net. They just weren't putting them in putting the biscuits in the basket, as we say. But now, the last two games, they've gone well for them because they're finding ways to bury the biscuits. Simple as that. They had 8 goals in Game 4 and 5 of them in Game 6. Of course, Edmonton wins in this postseason when they score 4 or more goals. So they just got to keep scoring. Got to find ways. It's not going to be easy. And I just got to say this, but here's the thing. They got home ice in Game 6, so Game 6 is in Edmonton. Oilers have got to find a way to take advantage. Come out with energy. Fans got to come out loud too. And so if Edmonton's going to continue this momentum and force a Game 7 and have any chance at winning another Stanley Cup and winning a Stanley Cup for Connor McDavid, well, McDavid's got to be at his best, but so does the whole team. And Stuart Skinner, he's been playing great hockey as of late. Just needs to continue to be consistent and solid like a rock in net. So this Game 6 is going to be so interesting to watch. Either Florida's going to win their first cup or Edmonton's going to force a Game 7. I'm curious to see how this goes. Of course, I still have Florida in 6, but we'll see if that prediction comes accurate. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs. Anything happens because it's the playoffs. It all comes down to which team is going to be hungrier tomorrow night in Edmonton. We'll find out who's going to make those adjustments and who adjusted for that long flight from Sunrise to Edmonton. So, all right. It's been a really fantastic series between the Oilers. It was looking like a boring series, but now it's become a fantastic series between the Oilers and the Panthers for the Stanley Cup Finals. And looking forward to seeing how it wounds up. May the best team win once more. All right, on to this day in sports history. Also forgot to mention that Edmonton has stepped up things on defense as well. Just want to add that to one of the reasons why Edmonton has been able to force the series to 6 games. All right, now, this day in sports history. On this day, the 19th of June, 1867, the first ever Belmont Stakes. Gilbert Gilpatrick aboard Ruthless wins the first Belmont Stakes with a time of 3:05, 3 minutes and 5 seconds. All right, sports fans, that is it for this week's Waxon Wednesday. Thank you for watching. This is Jake Waxman from Two Guys Talk Sports signing off. Have a good night, everyone.